Hey, wonderfuls. Welcome to my first episode of Helper'sHigh with your host, Tiffani. That's me. I am addicted to Helper'sHigh, and I'm here on my first podcast to tell you why. It's all about that burst of energy, overwhelming joy that you get when you help others. Would you believe when I say that helping others actually heals you? Yeah, that's right. It actually releases feel good hormones all throughout your body when you do random acts of kindness for other people. Knowing that, why wouldn't we do more of it? Well, that's what we're going to talk about on this podcast. Can't wait to dive in with you. Thanks for joining me. I'm so excited for this moment as I've talked about it for quite some time. And I really wanted to explain Tiffani because I know I'm not the only one. But here it goes. I'm addicted to Helper'sHigh. As a kid, I've always been excited and overjoyed by making people happy. And it started off as simple things, grabbing the remote, getting a glass of water, doing a chore before being asked. And I just remember the adults' happiness, really, to say the least, of what they felt like seeing this little kid who was super active, engaged, and really ambitious. But really, Helper'sHigh is joy that you make in other people's life that gives you a reward for doing that. So let me get into a little bit of the science of Helper'sHigh and why I named my podcast Helper'sHigh. Helper'sHigh is a real thing. It's actually the releasing of dopamine, oxytocins, feel-good chemicals in your body from doing random acts of kindness that help other people. And it seems like nature's gift, instead of finding ways to make yourself feel good using some other forms of drugs or other items, you do acts of kindness and it automatically rewards you with these feel good emotions. So that's right, you heard me. Doing good things for other people actually rewards you immediately. So why wouldn't we do more of that? Well, on this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about Helper'sHigh, things that we can do, and just ways to get through our day much easier. We're going to talk about my favorite addiction, as I mentioned, which is Helper'sHigh. And I'm not going to claim that it's my only addiction, but it's definitely the one that gives me the most joy. Now, my degree is in psychology, but I'm not a psychologist. With that said, I'm going to tell you that this podcast is going to be more focused on opinions. It's going to be focused on life experiences. And then definitely I'm going to want to hear from you too. So I'm going to ask you along the way to drop comments and let me know what either we want to talk about or what you agreed with or what you don't agree with or what I should elaborate with and so forth. So we're going to play it by ear. I've never done a podcast before, so I'm taking you along for the journey, but I knew it was time. When I say I knew it was time, I'm going to talk about something very specific, guys. And I know that this is not going to be the first time that you've heard about it, but hopefully it's going to resonate in a way that makes you motivated to do something about your own. And that's your gift. We are born with a gift. The Bible says that it's in us from time of birth, and it's really up to us to hone in on that and find out what that gift actually is. And then not only are we supposed to do what our gift is designed to do, but we're supposed to help others along the way. And when we are living in our gifts, another way to say that is living in our purpose. So you'll hear me use that term a lot as well. And understanding our why when you know your gift. And it's interesting, and we'll talk more about that, but there's so many adults that don't know what their gift is or have kind of tuned it out because other people have made you, or you heard it, but you don't know how. So hopefully we'll get to the bottom and some opportunities of what we can do on that as well. But your gift is something that you do naturally with little bits of effort, but you do it extremely well. So let's say, for example, you bake amazing cakes and you know that. And somebody else comes to bake the cake and they're like, oh, this does not taste like, fill in your name. You know that that is your gift. So the goal of that is that if you know that you bake cakes better than anybody else, you should be baking cakes. It's really that simple. So as a kid, I know for a fact that my gift was always rooted in communication and something to do with talking. So it brought me to this podcast. I was a precocious kid. I remember the older generation, calling me an old soul. I remember being teased for she's 4, going on 44, and just fun ways that they would say that I was really a little bit ahead of my time. And my mom really believed that. So much to say, she enrolled me in first grade at the age of 4. Things were a little bit different then, let's just say. So it was your word against theirs versus all of the documentation that you need now. But I went into first grade at the age of 4 and immediately was surrounded by elders, people who were 1 to 2 years older than me. And as a 4 to a 6-year-old, you know that that makes a difference. But it didn't to me. My mom always instilled on me that wherever I was in the right place. And that really did stick with me in forever. To this day, I don't believe in mistakes. I am where I'm supposed to be, and there is no room that is above me, beneath me, or one that I'm not able to fit into. So in first grade, very quickly, my peers started to realize that I was definitely the chatty one. I definitely wanted to help everyone. If I saw someone struggling, if I thought somebody had a question that they wanted to ask, if I thought somebody was too shy, I always wanted to be the one to speak up for them. I still do that to this day. And it's probably the one consistent thing that throughout my entire life has got me in the most trouble, if I'm being honest. I remember as a kid in these days, whether it be first grade all the way to 5th grade, teachers didn't mind shaming you. So one of the things that they would do when you did too much of something they didn't want you to do is that they would make you write it. So I remember far too often writing, I will not talk in class. 100 times it was either my homework assignment or my in-class assignment at the board. And back then we would do the faster way. So you would write like the I, will, and you would try to speed it up so that you could get back to doing probably exactly what it told you not to. And I probably used to do them ahead of time, if I'm being honest, because I knew for a fact that that was something that I'm going to be responsible to do or write anyway. But it didn't stop me from communicating. It stopped me from communicating verbally, for example, in that class. And it stopped me from getting seen for verbally communicating by the teacher who would assign these things to me. But it changed the way that I would go on to communicate. It started making me think a little bit differently, and I used more hand gestures. I used more facial remarks, things that I still do to this day. Honestly, I'm probably the person you want to play poker with because every expression, my thoughts, all of the things, they show right on my face. So poker is out. But it's always been just a part of me. So it's not something that I learned. It's really who I am. I was born into a family that immediately was dynamic. And we'll talk more about that. But my father's side of the family is Indian, from India and West Indian. And my mother's side of the family is from Panama and Jamaica. And so, yeah, I'm just this like infused of all of these things. And growing up, it was never something that we thought twice about. We thought it was normal. You know, you eat patacones with curry chicken. Duh, that's how it goes. So immediately I learned how to walk the walk, talk the talk, speak to different cultures, understand different um, religions, and so forth as well. But it was God's plan, not mine. I can tell you there's nothing that I would have done differently, but there's definitely something in me that's always driven me to want to help people and want to help them in a way that mattered and make sure that I heard them, that I listened, that I understood them, and that they knew that I was caring, compassionate, and I didn't expect anything in return. So, being altruistic, I understand 100% that although I am so willing to help people, I am not in any mindset that thinks that those very people that I helped should be or will be the ones to help me in the future. So it is definitely something that I am conscious of. It doesn't stop me because I'm not helping for a reward other than the one that I get naturally with Helper's High. I'm helping because I know that I'm capable of, and why else would I be here if it wasn't to serve others? With that said, I have to tell you that there are definitely things that you need to know. And when you live in your purpose, let me just say this because I think everybody needs to hear this. When you are truly living in your purpose, you don't have time for anything that is not actually causing you to get to the next level. So people around you and the chatter and whether they like you or they don't like you, it doesn't matter because you're consistent and you know what you're doing. You know why you're here. So oh God, it's so good. But again, we're going to talk more about that. But anything that's poisoning your space and not causing you peace, you can easily tune out when you're in your purpose. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still human. So every now and then somebody can catch me in a way that makes me say, what? But quickly, I reset and I refocus on what it is that I'm actually aiming to do. Now, I'm going to tell you, human nature is something that plays a part 100% in how you react, how you act, and how you engage with others. So, an example, here in Orlando, we have I-4. And I-4 highway is one of those highways that, regardless of time of day, when you're out there, if you've been to Orlando before, you know what I'm talking about. But if you live here, you absolutely know what I'm talking about. But you'll have some aggressive drivers and somebody who happens to cut you off. And you get to work, and that could be a conversation that goes on for way too long. I'm going to say minutes to more about this one car that cut you off. And it's human nature to talk about that car because you know that others can relate. So you say something about I-4 that this car cut you off and almost killed you. I don't know, it gets really dramatic really quick. And other people start to chime in with their experience on I-4. And their experience either may be their own or it may be something that they heard from somebody else who had a similar conversation already with them, or it may be their own, but it happened like 2 years ago. But you don't forget this, right? Because it doesn't happen so often. And that's the real reason that you don't forget it. But the conversation gets really robust and, oh, yeah, it's crazy out there. I can't believe that we have to drive like that, the traffic, the this. And the conversation kind of, again, it gets really intense, really big. And the truth is, 300, 500, 1,000 people, depending on how far you're commuting, passed you successfully, did not at all impact how you got to work, slow you down. None of those things happened. But the one that you choose to talk about is the one that cut you off. And that is one out of the hundreds that didn't, right? And that's what human nature does to you. It is so easy to relate and remember the things that are negatively impacting your life. But if you pause to really think about it, it's not the norm and it's not the majority. So, what do I do for something like that? And what do I recommend for something like that? And I recommend what we call reviewing your day. There are different ways to say it. Some of you are already doing it, I'm sure. I reflect weekly. So every Friday, I kind of go through my week of the things that I thought that brought me joy, made me laugh, you know, felt good. I appreciated it, whether I did it for somebody or they did it for me. And I really take that time. Sometimes throughout the day, though, I do write it down because I don't feel like on Friday I'm going to remember it. And reflecting is much easier that way if you remember the good things that happened, because there are far more than the bad things that happened. And if you don't act mindful about remembering it, you'll forget it. And it will seem that there's so much more negativity going on than what really is. So, throughout these podcasts, this is what we're going to be talking about. It's really just feel good moments and remembering the positivity, remember how you influence others, and really rooting yourself in your gift, your purpose, and your why. I'm loving the opportunity to take you along on that journey and really just bring things out that maybe you thought of, you are consciously thinking of right now, or you once thought about it and somehow it went to the back burner, as we usually do as adults. We're capable of putting things on the back burner, especially when it benefits us. So in this podcast, I am going to talk parenting. I'm going to talk helping each other. I'm going to talk about ways to overcome. I'm going to talk about a lot of things. A lot of things. We're going to talk about it together. We're going to talk about it together. I'm so excited about this. But here's the thing. This is just the beginning. And it's really going to be us. I'm not going to do it alone. Whether I'm sitting here by myself in this solo chat, I know that you're there. I'm going to invite guest speakers because I believe that you should hear from other people. I have some phenomenal people in my life that I want to introduce you to as well. One of the things that I remember about two of the phenomenal people in my life is my children. When they were growing up, they are young adults now, age 20 and 26. But when they were growing up, I remember they would come home from school. And as a parent, as you may be, you would say what seemed normal. How was your day? And they would say, good. It was good, good, good. It really never got me anywhere. It really never enriched the conversation. It never got me to the next level. If anything, it just had me asking more questions after more questions. So I really decided, as a salesperson that I am, to change the delivery, change the question, and ask something that's going to get me a better response. So I started asking, instead of how was your day, what did you do to make someone's day better? And now real conversations were happening, real thoughts, real emotions, real connection. And I remember my son, who is the sarcastic one. I don't know where he gets it from. But I remember him saying, oh, I held the door open. And I would say, perfect. That's a great example of doing a kind gesture for someone else. And the first time that he said it, he thought he was being kind of funny about it. He thought it was like, oh, I held the door open and that's not a big deal. But that's exactly the kind of response that I wanted from him, because I wanted him to see that kindness does not have to be hard, and it doesn't require you to do anything fancy. It just requires you to pay attention to others, show empathy, show sympathy, and always be consistent with your habits. I've made it my point to really be consistent in the way that I deliver, whether it be communication, whether it be kindness. I'm a hugger. So for those of you who know me, I love to hug. I definitely feel like it's a way to connect. Now, I am one that draws from energy. This in itself is a whole nother topic for a whole nother podcast, I promise you. It's a fascinating yet scary feeling because I can feel the energy when I come into a room. Learning that now, I can say as an adult, and it took me a long time to understand that. I have to decide, am I going to please 9 out of 10 or am I going to please 1 out of 10? And I say that because I come in, I am probably more confident than some may like. I am not cocky at all. I look different than the people usually in the room that I'm entering. So I'm consciously aware that it could feel different for anyone who does not understand who Tiffani is. And it doesn't bother me in the least. And I really want to meet you in your space, but I also want to be true and authentic to myself. So I've learned a way to give 100% of who I am, but in doses, because I understand that everybody is not going to want to receive that. And it's a skill that I have to be mindful of. And sometimes folks would think that I don't have that skill because they may be the 1 out of 10 that it's not pleasing to. But I understand that. And now I've decided that there's really nothing that I can do, because I think we would all agree that if you're ever coming home with 90%, then you're doing really well. And truthfully, sometimes it's 70. But I leave my sweet spot somewhere in there. 70, 90, all good. My son would say, it's passing, as he goes through college right now. No, just kidding. But here's the thing. These episodes are going to be enriched with heartfelt moments and really designed to stir up thoughts, stir up emotions, put you in your purpose, make you tap in, all the things. I'm asking you to come along with me for the journey. Let's see where this takes us. I'm excited about it. I hope you're excited about it. It feels good, which I said I ride on energy. So I feel like I'm doing the right thing. But here it is. Episode 1 of Helper's High with Tiffani. I hope you stay tuned. I hope you subscribe. I hope you tell a friend. I hope you know that together we can make magic. See you soon.